Hello and welcome everybody to a Wednesday night, which is the spooky show. And tonight we are with Ghost Guy Bry. But before we delve into Ghost Guy Bry, I need to do some shout outs tonight. So, first shout out goes to our co host, Dan, who is not well. But we're sending you lots of love, buddy. And
Love you, dude.
we'll see you when you're well enough to come back on. My second shout out goes to Sarah Louise Davies. She hasn't been feeling herself either. So a big shout out to Sarah Louise. We hear you, we're with you, and get better soon. We're sending you lots of love as well right now because you need it. Back to the show. So, Bry is one of our friends. He's also a presenter on the Simply Spooky Network with his own show. He is one half of the Freaky Friday. So that's fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bry's also a medium, a healer, a historian-ish, and he's also an intrepid paranormal historian-ish. Well, he likes his history, but he's more into the paranormal and what it's about and where he is at the time, and he's not overly obsessed with it. So that's an ish, isn't it, Bry?
Yeah, I do like my wildlife and everything as well. I've got my fingers in lots of pies. I'm not an expert on anything, but I've got a running knowledge on most things. So,
which is a very good way to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's nothing wrong with being an ish.
Exactly. And I did a little bit of research, knowing that Jonathan was on, because me and Viv spoke a little bit about the bone skipper fly.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I told him that you was into your bone skipper flies.
That sounds really, really inappropriate.
Why? They've made a big comeback. It's a really big thing.
Just think about what you're saying, Mrs. Powell.
Into them.
Vivian.
Epic cat sneeze. Hello.
Good evening.
I'm still trying to get the link so I can put it on my Facebook page.
All right, I'll leave you alone. You concentrate on that. And me and Parker will. I was going to say we'll start on Bry, but we're going to interview on Bry.
Shimmergate.
Oh, cheers.
Bry, you've been sensitive, a medium. Well, since you were quite young, really. I'm not going to go into how old you are live on air.
He's younger than me, boys and girls.
But you've seen things and sensed things and heard things, and you've seen a lot over the years. But what is the one thing that sticks out to you the most? One thing that really sort of left a mark on you. What was it, Bry?
There's quite a few things, but I should imagine, because I mention it quite a bit, to be fair, my first experience, 9 years old. I've told this before, but for anybody that's not heard it, evening.
That was the evening, by the way.
Yeah.
He's interpreting the Yorkshire accent.
As you do it as a 9-year-old back then, when there wasn't the problems with people at my age running about way away from home, I was bird nesting, looking for birds' nests. and I'm walking up this country lane, and I saw this little old fella sat on a bench. And as I approached him, I stopped and asked him if he knew any bird's nest in locality, and he proceeded to tell me off, saying you shouldn't be collecting birds' eggs and things like that. And so we had a good conversation. Carried on for quite some time, to be fair. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw another older gentleman with a walking stick coming up lane towards us. And I turned to look, and then when I looked back, there was nobody sat on that bench. And it scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, I
So I
bet.
ran home like I did. And from 9 years old, that was a lot of my occupation, running home and telling my mother, and she'd proceed to tell me, shut up your barn pot.
Your barn pot.
Shut up your barn pot. So I grew up thinking I were a little bit, screwy.
Yeah.
And it weren't until later on in life that we're having this conversation. And I said to my mother, look, mother, it's never gone away. I've constantly seen and hearing things and smelling things. Where do I get this ability from? And she eventually told me all these years later
What
that
your
I
mum
got it
was
from my
sensitive
great,
as well.
yeah, I got it from my great grandma that used to read tea leaves and palms, and they used to come from America and all over for her to give them a reading. I said, well, why didn't you tell me that when I was younger, when I thought I was cracking up? So there's lots and lots of things since then, but that is the most vivid memory that I've got. My first one.
That's a major one as well.
It is really, yeah, definitely.
Have
But
you ever
as
seen
I've got older-
seen that man again?
Sorry?
Have you ever encountered that person again?
No, I haven't. But his features stay in my mind more than people that have actually known. You know what I mean? For some reason. Yeah, I'll never forget what he looked like. With his little flat cap sat on his knee. He didn't wear it; it were on his knee. It's a weird memory, but as I was going to say, as life's gone on, that vivid scene of people in spirit, it has faded. And I don't tend to see people as we're looking at each other now. It's more the shadows and similar to the picture that I sent you, Viv, when I was doing that experiment, like in smoke.
Yeah.
The standard for spirit these days. But I still smell and I still hear. And a lot
Can
of
I
people
share that picture with everybody?
You can, yeah, by all means.
Look at this, Jonathan. I'm going to share it, especially for Jonathan. I think he'll be quite impressed.
That's all right. I take a screenshot of it so I can claim it as mine.
You nasty.
I caught this in a little chapel called St Mary's Lead in Saxton.
Saxton?
Yeah, Saxton. Near the Battle of Towton.
It is like kind of that end, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's something I started doing at the pandemic because you couldn't get anywhere. So I started doing churches, which surprisingly were the only things still open and accessible.
That was during COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah. So to be able to put them on my page for me followers, that's what I did. I just started filming churches and started doing the odd investigation because this place, church-led, it's not abandoned as such, but it's an open church, 24/7. It's open, so it's one of the few places that you can go with a roof and a doer and do an investigation, which is brilliant. And I've built a rapport up with Summit Spirits in there because I go quite regular, or I have been. Have you found it, Viv?
I did. I've had to sort of try and zoom into it. I'm sharing screen now, so you should be able to see it quite clearly.
the picture that you're gonna show actually is only part of it, but it's just one frame, one picture out of about 8 that I took, and it's the only one that I caught anything on, which was surprising. But the validation for it was I could smell wet dog.
Yeah, bloody hell.
Can you see
Yeah.
that, everybody? And I have to go
Yeah, I
on the
see a little
page.
bit of it.
Good
See a
God.
little
Well,
bit of what.
If
Let
you
me
look
just pull
carefully,
that
you'll
down.
see a fella's features with a beard, and then in front of him is like a big Irish wolfhound, but that's a
Yeah, it
darker
looks like, I was
figure.
going to say that. It's like an animal faced at the front, but someone's at the back.
Yes. And that were an
And you could
experiment.
smell him.
Sorry?
You could smell the dog.
I could
Probably
smell
wet dog.
yeah. Yeah, I could smell wet dog, which was it's appropriate because this little chapel stands in the middle of a field with quite long grass. So
I'm just
that was-
amazed. I'm
Isn't
amazed
that
at this. Look,
Yeah.
yes.
he's got a turban with, you know, like with a bit of the thing wrapped. He looked like Lawrence of Arabia. Really distinct nose. Look,
Yeah.
really
Exactly.
distinct
And-
nose and eye features.
Yeah. And this was one of eight shots, like I said. It was just an experiment where I stood a torch on its end, on the edge of the pew, and blew smoke from my vape across it.
Yeah.
And that's what I managed. That's what it's as if he came through it and didn't realise this
Yeah.
smoke had engulfed him, and then just backed off. And I didn't get anything on any others. But yeah, that was brilliant, that one. And I didn't notice it until after, obviously, we'd done investigating and I got home. But I've
Wow.
caught all sorts in that church. Sometimes it's flat, there's nothing. And then other times it's all kicking off. Light,
Kicking off,
dark.
yeah.
Yeah. The word that I know some people don't like this term, but I got lots of orbs, and I have got lots of orbs. But the thing is, this place is never dusty. It's always damp because there's no heating. It's old. So who is it? Can't see.
Dawn. Me Dawn is on. She's watching.
Evening
She's
Dawn.
not in. Dawn, yeah.
Right.
When you
so
said
yeah,
you took 8 photos, did you take them bang, 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 all straight after each other or at different times?
There's a little delay. There's a 2-second delay on my camera phone, on my phone. So I did take them after each other, but there's a big 2-second gap. And I actually like that because it gives you more time to sort of validate, really. I think so. You know, if it's frame by frame sort of thing. I get what you're saying. There's more evidence, I think, with insects and animals and one thing and another, that it would validate that. But for spirit, they can appear and disappear in a frame. I've had it where there's nothing on 2 or 3, and then there'll be something on one of them, and then a gap, and then something on the next one. So
gap and yeah.
I find it for me, it works better that way. I think everybody's different, aren't they? But
why don't next time you go out, bro? Why don't you try like straight through, if that makes sense, like on the camera? You know, like Jonathan said, like the flickering.
I'd have to alter my phone because it's the way my phone's set up. It just seems
okay.
it counts down.
Yeah.
Down. Yeah. So
yeah, but you know what I mean, though. Instead of
wouldn't-
try something different, you might get
yeah.
no, you might
Yeah.
got out, but you might get different pictures. Do you know what I mean? You got to try stuff a little bit different. You
Well,
know,
exactly.
to see what
I've
happens,
got the
because then you might see a sequence in the capture that you get in might get prone to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
You see, because I'm doing it myself. I just do my own little bits. But
Yeah.
when I start doing proper investigations again, which I will do, I'll get all my old equipment out because I like to do different things. So I've got an old-fashioned portable cassette deck,
Maybe.
and that records,
Ivy,
and that I've had some good stuff on that.
Oh, sorry. Somebody called V said hello to you.
Good
To you
evening.
all.
Ivy, he's an old friend of mine. I've known him about 35 years. A lovely guy.
Good. And then I've got the modern EVP, the little like dictaphone type, and I'll do multiple recordings. And it's same way. I've got an older phone that I'll probably take pictures with that, and use this one on a tripod to record a video.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different things going off, like a professional job, I suppose.
You, professional?
Yeah,
Give
me.
me the hat.
But
I'll tell you what,
I will
right?
do that. And I've done that. So that, John.
What I would like to see, I don't know how you do this, but I would like to see if you could have several different cameras from different places all focusing on the same place where you see the thing.
Yes. And I've done that in the past because I've taken other people out and I've said, look, focus on this, exactly the same spot, this red dot. And then I've turned the red dot off, front laser, and everybody's phone is focusing on one spot. And some people have caught things and others haven't, that's fascinating.
Oh
That's
Lord,
really
yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Because that makes one think that the phenomenon is as much about the people who witness it and who photograph it.
Yes, I agree.
It's like the person taking photographs has somehow their personality, their mental state has transferred to their camera.
Yeah.
Which opens up so many cans of worms. That's a real freak out.
I agree. I totally agree. And it just shows, I think that would show ability. Definitely show different people's ability. We were talking about it other night, Viv, where we said that there's different categories of people. There's what I call a sponge, which I like to have a sponge here because they attract spirit. Like,
He really means to say he likes to have a sponge bath, but nobody's been around to give him one.
Ian,
So
you're behaving badly this evening.
I'm only joking.
And you know what we do to naughty girls, don't you?
Yeah.
Vivian.
But she wouldn't be Viv if she weren't.
No. But Bri, you're absolutely right about the sponge thing, about absolutely sort of drawing in. I'm not going to say just spirit energy, but energy that's around, whether it's natural energy or energy from people, whether it be good, bad, ugly, whatever. There is that draw, which you're labelling it as a sponge.
Yeah. I like to use layman's
love
terms.
to see it if you could work out some sort of way that you could have half a dozen cameras all focused on the same area, all being operated by the same person.
I have CCTV set up, but the trouble is you need electrics for CCTV. I mean, Andy does have generators and things, but it's awfully noisy then. But we have done that kind of thing before in the past with CCTV cameras. What I have noticed, though, is when I did deliberately set up some CCTV cameras in somebody's house where something happened, the minute the phenomena happened and we were experiencing it, and it was terrible. It was terrifying. But when we went back and reviewed the cameras all had this, I can explain it. It was like a line of interference that went right across the screens, and you couldn't see anything. The minute the events stopped, the cameras came back. So whatever was happening at that particular time interfered with all the cameras.
Which to towards what me and Ian have always said, and we will do another show on it. Frequencies dictate a hell of a lot of things.
Yes.
And going on from what we were talking about, why I use different era cameras and equipment, i.e. recording on a cassette and recording digitally, is because of that frequency. So if one thing can pick it up and another thing is not, it narrows that frequency down. If somebody, ever calibrates all this, and maybe we could find a common frequency that makes spirit visible, i.e. I did a little thesis, right? Here's another interesting one. I did a look at the most sightings of spirit by people that are not into that side of things. So what we call muggles, by muggles. The most sightings by muggles all over the country tend to be under high or around high-powered pylons.
Right on.
So, so I came up with maybe this frequency that the pylons are giving off makes spirit visible.
Yeah.
Much in a way that wildlife camera traps, your infrared camera traps, when they tripped by an animal.
Yeah.
Which I think that'd be a good experiment. And there's a certain place that's well known, not far from me. It's called Stocksbridge Bypass. And the police, even the police, have been said to see this monk on the bypass, but it's always around this pylon, and it's a high-powered pylon. It doesn't seem to occur as much in America, where they use lower-powered pylons. We use 240 volts. They use what? Is it 110? Something like that.
110,
yeah.
So maybe there's a correlation there as well. It all allows you to pin down a particular frequency, and if we can bottle it, then maybe we've got some sort of camera that'll be more sensitive to picking spirit up. That's my thesis.
Vivi and I have both been, over the years, working with stuff that happened at Cannock Chase in Staffordshire. And in the middle of Cannock Chase, you've got this absolutely enormous bloody pylon tower thing that looks like something designed by Heath Robinson, because it's got all these different satellite dishes and transmitting things that look a bit like old TV aerials sticking out at different angles. And it all looks like it was put together with gaffer tape. And one of the things I want to try and work out how to do is to make a map of what of these dishes and aerials and things covers what area, because there have been so many strange things reported around there. I want to try and work out which particular set of frequencies is holding sway in the place where people see things.
So you'd probably think that there will probably be phone masks, internet masks, and stuff like that, to be fair.
I'm sure there
but also what people have got to remember is we have this thing called super fast fibre for our computers, which also, now these are run underground. So they're not above us, they're also below us. And is that interfering with ley lines and other things that are there naturally that Mother Earth gives us? So this is another like side of it. but not only that, and this is ongoing from a conversation I had with a psychiatrist. I saw a psychiatrist at the weekend. No, I didn't have an appointment with a psychiatrist before anyone says anything. I bumped into a man.
Do anything like that?
I had a conversation with a retired psychiatrist about this very thing. And this is coming from a professional that's worked in the field for many years. And he did, when I asked him about this ghost thing, and I wanted his take on it. The first thing he said was, he didn't dismiss it, but what he said was, it all depends on the individual and their state of mind. He said, because people carry mental health issues, can have them for many years and not be classed as being a mental health patient.
No.
But psychologically, I would call them, on this level, he said, unbalanced. I wouldn't take what they say is correct, but he said if they were of strong mind and body and they're having these experiences are true to them. He said, I could be standing next to you and you might see something that I don't see. He said, but then I could see something that you don't see. Or there could be a number of people that see the same thing simultaneously. He said, it all depends on the individuals and how they act as receivers.
Yeah.
So there was quite an important thing. And I sat and listened to him and thought, out of all the psychiatrists and therapists that I've spoken to about this very subject, he was the only one that didn't dismiss it or poo-poo it straight away. But he did say, I would factor in people's mental state of minds.
Yeah, but it's also been...
Did he think that you was mad?
Accepted by the medical and psychological societies that there are people in institutions, not so many these days, because the institutions are the thing of the past. They treat them in community, don't they? But when there were people in there that weren't mentally ill. They were possessed. Or they had, to use a modern term, they had an attachment. So for years they dismissed that. But when you've got certain medical conditions that are accompanying it, like jaundice and the black eyes, the well-known physical traits to people that have got an attachment. So even Robert, even Catherine. So how much of the truth is that? There's so many different facets. It'd have to be literally looked at the person, the individual person themselves. How sensitive are they? Do they have an attachment? You've got to check. It's like a checkerboard, isn't it? You know what I mean? You've got to check all the checklist. That's the checklist. And dismiss everything. And then you can take somebody serious, because out of 10, you're only going to get maybe 1, 2 out of that 10 that's a worthy subject, shall we say? Because you can rule things out. They're not possessed. They're not, they're not got an attachment. They are sensitive. They're working on a certain frequency. I'm not sure. We did look at it, and I think we as humans, there's quite a varying degree of frequency that we run on, because you've not just got active state of frequency, you've got sleeping status as well, which is a lot lower. I can't remember what it were, but we did do a look at it. So, but I think there's a correlation, and if we can nail these frequencies down, we've got a better chance of finding out a lot more. It's okay having all these apps and gadgets and everything else, which they do have a purpose, I should imagine. Me personally, I think the best computer and the best gadget is this. Is his own psyche. But it's keeping it, because we've all got different personalities, it's hard to take a slice. Everybody's got a different way of explaining things. And we're all looking at the same thing, but you can get 10 different versions, you know what I mean? So Chinese whisper.
Rob's asked, Bride, do these magic boards work, or is it just a game, in your opinion?
Magic boards? What magic boards?
Ouija boards, that sort of thing.
Ouija boards. Well, you see,
I'm on the
as a
fence with
kid,
this.
I've used Ouija boards, and I don't agree with them because for me, a Ouija board is formulated to be open to any spirit, whereas I will use what I call a spirit board, which to a lot of people they're the same thing, but a spirit board to me is blessed.
Yeah.
Has Bride got stuck then?
Yeah, he's gone.
When he said the blessed word, he got stuck. Demons about.
Probably something very sinister happening. I think he's completely right, and that you can have all the modern equipment in the world, but none of it is a replacement for good old-fashioned legwork.
Yeah. Well, I just want to quickly pick up on what Rob said about the magic boards. I did one with Dan, and Dan did poo himself because we did the Ouija board. It was just me and Dan. I trust Dan 100%, and he trusts me. We did it in a secret nuclear bunker, just me and him. And the planchette moved on its own with no one touching it. The minute Dan saw it, he shit himself, knocked the board flying, and refused to go back on it because it upset him that much.
Yeah.
We didn't see it spelling out anything. The thing was just going backwards and forwards on its own like that, very slowly, very, very calmly. Wasn't aggressive or anything like that. But yeah. It was interesting. I thought that was amazing.
Well, did you see the episode of our show recently that was from that weird museum in Wales full of paranormal stuff?
I saw the first one. I didn't see the second. There was 2 parts, wasn't there?
3 parts.
Was that the one with
and
2
then
parts?
The
3
third
parts.
part, Richard actually did a seance in their Victorian seance room. And he got contacted by, you're not going to believe this, he got contacted by at least something pretending to be Jeff the Talking Mongoose. The one the real one, not the one that Richard uses in the glove puppet on the show. Because Richard and his mates go to the Isle of Man every year to go and visit. I can't remember the name, but Cation's Gap, where the haunting took place. They go there every year to investigate it and to find out more about the place. Very strange.
So we were just picking up on the Ouija board thing.
It's good to have you back, right? Because you froze since you said bless.
Yeah, you froze.
You froze, and it was like
exactly.
Demonic activity around Brian because he's been blessed.
Everybody disappeared, so I had to reboot.
So Brian, what do you think about the the Earth spins?
Yep.
So we have a core, and the core does spin.
Cool.
And then there's another outer layer around that core that spins. And then there's another layer and that spins. This is what I learned in university when I went to Cambridge. And then right the way through to the outer crust that moves as well.
History museum, more like.
So on this, because we're spinning, we're creating electromagnetic fields of many substances around of the Earth. If something gets out of sequence, or the layers might get a little knock and it creates these waves, do you think it's a what am I trying to say? it's a disturbance within the natural Earth's electromagnetic fields. Some people pick up on it, some people don't pick up on it. Do you think that this helps in mediumship, in sensitives, or even the appearance of ghosts and other oddities that show themselves? Do you think that this could be a factor? I'm looking at the science now.
To some extent, is all I can say. Again, because we're all sensitive in different degrees, then we're also going to be, it stands to reason, we're also going to be affected differently by outside interference, different degrees. So some people are going to be more sensitive than others to that interference. So this is why when witches talk about waxing and waning and one thing and another, some people don't experience it, but others do. It affects them wildly. Same as a condition called SAD, seasonal attentional deficiency, is it? So
seasonal
there's
affective
lots
disorder.
of different factors in there, you know, and we're all sensitive in different ways because the chemical makeup may be similar, but it's not the same, you know. We're all made of the same things, but it's slightly different recipes, shall we say. We've all got a different, let's say, a batter for Yorkshire pudding. Everybody's is different, but it's the same things that's going in.
Yeah, they're different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, on that note, I'm going to get some food, so I'm going to catch you later, guys.
See you later, Jamie. We're going to carry on with the conversation.
I will speak to you. I'll speak to you soon, Vivian, about them dates, and I'll see you guys soon. See you later.
Sure,
Take care. Bye.
Yes, bye. See you later, mate.
Bye, mate.
Have a good evening. Yeah,
Peace. I wish I could have put those fingers the other way round, but I didn't.
There's lots of different factors, isn't there? It's like, for example, just as an example as well, and this is the human psyche at the end of the day. Say, for example, us three, we've all got an interest and the same amount of knowledge. We've had the same books, we've read from the same books about just one subject. So let's pick a subject. I don't know, giraffes. So we've all read the same information about a giraffe, and we've taken it to the nth degree. Who is the most knowledgeable?
I would say Jonathan, because he might have been here longer than me.
And I would say it's the person that's taken that information in the best and can relate it.
Yeah.
So it could be either of us.
True.
It's going to be the person who can apply the knowledge that they've got and can deduce things from the book learning. It's the person who reads a book about giraffe behavior, goes to a safari park and can see the giraffe standing in the corner and say that giraffe's unhappy because it hasn't eaten enough.
Yeah. But that's taking it to the human extent of knowledge, isn't it? He's taking that knowledge that you've learnt in books and taking it into field, extending that knowledge. You can only learn so much from any one given thing, can't you? So
Hi,
if you
Chantal.
want to learn any more, Chantal's in the house.
Chantal! Applehampton Hall has been on the social media. Have you been to look round yet? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But to them, it's nothing, is it? You know what I mean? It's same with pigeon. Now that's an interesting one, actually. What you said, Robert, because that's just pinged a bit of information, Viv. You said these magnetic fields in this answer, can they affect? Well, yes, they can, because pigeons. It's been studied that pigeons use magnetic fields when they're racing them. to find a way home. They're actually reading magnetic streams rather than the actual landscape. They do look at the landscape, so it's a conglomerate of things. But if you change that magnetic field, then they get lost.
Yeah.
So this is why they do get lost in storms and things like that. It's not because they can't see, it's because it affects that magnetic line and they can't follow it properly.
Yeah. Rob says this could be why people with mental illness, they may have been getting interacted with the Earth's magnetic field. Like some mental illnesses are affected by changes within the magnetic fields. Because I did learn, like with the aura, the I can't pronounce it, aurora borealis that people have been witnessing around the.
Did you find it?
But they're also daytime ones. But of course, with the human eyes, we cannot see them, and we might be affected by them and not know. Of course, like they say, oh, look at her, she's PMT again, premenstrual. Yeah. She's on one. Or men might laugh and say, oh, if I was a woman right now, this would be my PMT's time. It affects both male and female. It's just not singled out to whether it's
of course
just a woman.
But there's more truth in that than the sound, because again, it's chemical, and if there's a change in chemicals in your body, then it's a change in chemicals in your mind. Exactly. So you react different. You do react different.
I really function badly at full moon.
Yeah.
I'm bipolar, and I always have my bad phases at full moon.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that your actual frequency, because conditions do affect the frequency that we run on.
Yeah.
And I think that there should be more treatment in frequency treatment type of thing.
Not electric shock therapy.
No, but a way to actually see that working. How can we work that one as a description? Right. The newfangled earphones that are literally plugged into your head. It's been proven that if you've got a migraine, these things don't work as well as they should, because your chemicals is affecting the frequency that you're working on.
Yeah.
So if you take that to an nth degree and change the frequency, if you had a little gadget, maybe that would help with conditions like bipolar and schizophrenia and one or two other things. It needs to be looked at, I think. The scope.
One of the things I've always wanted to look at, and I never have, it's one of those things I've always meant to do and I've never done, mainly because I'm not quite sure how to do it. But I would like to look at people who are epileptic and who are psychic or, sensitives. Because I think that there is going to be a correlation, especially with people who have temporal lobe epilepsy, the Jacksonian epilepsy, which is further down towards the brainstem.
Yeah.
And that's
I'm
something.
glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because there is different types, shall we say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that one would correlate, like I've said, to frequency.
But also blind people. I'm not going to leave them out, because I was quite lucky. I was lucky enough to be taken to dining in the dark restaurant, and I was taken to my table by a blind lady. She served me all night. We discussed all sorts of things. But what's intrigued me is, because they can't see, I think it makes people with those kind of disabilities highly sensitive anyway. Put them in an atmosphere where they're in a haunted house and they completely trust that the people that they're with, will they experience more than the seasoned investigators because they're so highly in tune with everything. And that's got nothing to do with Earth electromagnetic fields or whatever. It's just how they've adapted themselves and trained themselves to
Yeah,
get on in the world.
I would say, again, you look at it common sense. How has that spirit manifested, for a start? So you've got 4 different people, shall we say, of different similar abilities, but different, I wouldn't say handicaps either. I'd say different sensory abilities. So one's deaf, one's blind, one's normal, and one is, say, both, in fact.
Yeah.
If that spirit is interacting by smell, one is going to be more sensitive than the other. If that spirit's interacting via eyes, it's showing itself, then you're going to get a different. You see where I'm going with it?
Yeah.
It all depends on the spirit for who's going to be the most sensitive to that spirit. So it doesn't make any difference really whether you're blind, deaf, or anything like that. It depends on the spirit. It depends on the spirit, how they're portraying themselves.
Also, I think there's a tendency to assume that all spirits, and I'm putting bloody great big inverted commas around them, are all the same. Whereas I think they are. I think there's a dozen different things that we lump together as spirits, or we lump together as ghosts.
Yeah.
And personally, I think very few of them are actually the souls of the dead. I think the vast majority of them are something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also, if you think about it, the varying degrees of a spirit and their abilities, not ours, theirs. A perfect example is there's a scene in Ghost, popular film, I know, where the spirit of the train has been in spirit and he's been on that train for that long that he has made it his own and he's experimented and he can move objects. He can move people. But poor old Sam is only been in spirit for a couple of days and he's got no clue of what to do or how to do it. His ether is weak, whereas the spirit on the train, his ether was strong. So you've got to take, there's loads and loads of different things that you've got to take into account. Is that spirit willing to talk for a start? Because I've had it where a spirit sat there, and because they don't like the people outside on me, they've kept completely quiet. They've not interacted whatsoever. The minute this person that they didn't like's gone, you can't shut them up. So, but that's down to me.
But you also get these spirits that appear that, I'm going to use Dan. Dan won't mind me talking about this. He's a psychic as a brick, is our Dan. Very animated. You know Dan, Bry.
Yeah.
And we went into this, we had an investigation and we went into this property and we met up with some people in this house and there was a ghost box on the floor and the ghost box was going off. And Dan was just there. I was just milling about, sorting out my stuff, and there was these 2 young guys. And Dan came to me and says, "Oh, that old fella." I'm thinking, I don't know what you're talking about, old fella. And he's gone upstairs with the boys, but he said he'll be down later and we'll have a chat and all this. I never saw him again all night. Dan had a 20-minute conversation apparently with this fella that didn't exist. He saw, as we were in the flesh, about the ghost box that was going off. And Dan said he had the exact same thing at home. What was his thoughts about that ghost box and how it works? And does he think that there really is a spirit in the room? And the man was saying, yeah, of course, I think there's a spirit in the room. And he was telling him, this is how it works, and the closer the spirit moves to the ghost box, the more it will go off, and all this sort of thing. And it was quite interesting because basically Dan was talking to a spirit of a gentleman that he saw in the flesh, like we are, about something that he was setting off, and knowing he was setting it off, he was telling Dan, yes, spirit does set it off, and this is how they set it. He was telling him all the secrets from the spirit world, if you like.
Yeah.
And me and Dan had this argument that man was not there. He wasn't part of our group. He was not in the house. And he even described him to me. I said, there was nobody there. That he went into great detail. Lovely chap. He was, middle-aged. He was this. No, there was nobody there, Dan. What was he wearing? Oh, he had this grey jacket on. And he described what he was wearing. I said, there was nobody there. And we were there all night together, mingling with everyone, Yeah. And Dan said, come to think of it, I didn't see him again. Well, there's your answer. So again, it's like,
I think you're maligning poor Dan. He isn't as psychic as a brick. He actually is psychic. He just doesn't realize it and doesn't know how to deal with it.
But things like lots of things are happening, and Dan is seeing more.
Yeah.
And Dan poo-poos a lot of it. I said to Dan, you had a conversation with a ghost. No, I didn't. There was a bloke there. I said, I'm telling you now. And he was telling you how a piece of equipment actually worked. You got the inside scoop. Yeah. Do you reckon? I went, yes.
Exactly.
Dan.
Yeah,
exactly. But that can happen, and that's similar to what my explanation of a sponge is. I like to sit a sponge in the middle of a circle because they attract these spirits. They might not be sensitive or privy, shall we say, to what that spirit's trying to say and do. But if that spirit really, really wants to portray themselves to this sponge, they will. They will, and it shocks them a lot of the time. And that's why a sponge tends to react really badly to psychic energy. Because if they've got that close to them, they're attracting all this, what's the word? Ether.
Nice
it makes them feel poorly. It makes them feel poorly, because they can't cope with it.
Yeah. I talk about the mental illness thing, about the electromagnetic fields.
Robert just came up with a really rather good joke. I don't know if you saw that.
Go on, read it out.
The man who got a divorce from a ghost because he saw right through her.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with him.
No.
Oh dear. You know what, Vivian? You've got a great future ahead of you writing the jokes that go inside Christmas crackers.
Yeah. And on lollies.
They've already been. I think these have already been done. I'll tell you my best joke. What quivers and lies at the bottom of the sea?
Oh, I've heard this one. I can't remember it. Go on.
A nervous wreck.
That's it. Yeah. What's the spirit's favourite food?
What's what?
This show.
What's the spirit's favourite food?
Don't know.
No idea.
Spaghetti.
Oh God.
Oh, I'm enjoying myself. I love doing this show.
Oh dear. Yeah, we I think there should be more encouragement as well to get other co-hosts on each other's show. Mingle it up.
Mingle. You like to mingle?
I like to mingle
with a Pringle.
Yeah, she is naughty, isn't she?
Yes, she is. She's being a bad girl tonight.
once you pop, you can't stop, apparently, with Pringles.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah.
Other crisps are available too. I
Yeah,
just better put that out there quickly.
There's a difference between a prawn and a shrimp, we know.
Oh,
Ooh. So, oh, 3 whales are falling from the sky. I can't, it's too small on my screen to read.
2 hits the land, 1 hits the water. Ba-dum-tsh.
Oh dear. Don't give up your day job.
I'm completely confused. Yeah, good question, Robert. Did you see Dan talking to the ghost?
Oh, yes.
You saw him
no.
doing the talk, but there was no one there.
I saw Dan talking, but I thought he was talking to the other 2 young guys that were in the room with Dan. And I was sorting out some other bits of equipment and stuff for me and Dan to go off and do some stuff. So I didn't really take much notice because I thought Dan was talking to the 2 boys. But apparently Dan was talking to this man. I wasn't there. That was hilarious. I didn't take any notice.
Did you ask the 2 boys about it afterwards?
Not really, because I didn't really know the boys. I didn't know them. We weren't introduced or anything like that. They were there, already there. Yeah, that was during lockdown. 20 of us in a house where we shouldn't have been in there, and everyone else was locked at home. We were out investigating.
Yes.
Yeah,
I got
we
turned
were
round at
naughty.
Chatsworth. I got turned round in Chatsworth. I was driving through Chatsworth, and COVID police turned me around and said, "Go home." So,
Yeah, Dan and I were out every week, near enough. Yeah.
me
And
too.
to be honest, because it was so quiet, more things happened, and Dan and I experienced more together, and Jamie at times as well, because of there not being so many people around.
Yes. Yeah.
Experience
I
more.
found it a lot better to investigate because there was less interference to me personally.
Yeah.
I could zoom in, shall we say?
What was you saying, Jonathan?
Is that when you saw the links?
No, we saw that before lockdown when we saw the links.
Yeah. I've got an interesting one there. I don't know whether I should mention it now or off air. But sod it. We naughty, aren't we? We naughty. People see things as well
That's naughty, Catherine. Sorry.
That's terrible, Catherine.
But maybe aren't there because it's been projected on them. And this happens around MOD sites in particular, because they don't want you around them. So how can they get rid of you without actually pulling up and saying, "Go away"? They employ, I'm not sure on the term, because as I say, I tend to use layman's terms because I'm not up on the scientific names, but is it telekinesis?
Something like that.
So
I know what you mean, but they get into the brain.
Yeah, so they have a couple of people that are concentrating in the bunker or wherever it is around this MOD site, and when they get intruders, obviously they'll have a sensor grid, so they know when people's getting anywhere near this site. And if people are pulling up near this site, they'll have these people that are projecting images in people's heads, and they tend to see their worst nightmares. So they skedaddle.
Do you know what? It's interesting you say that, because apparently there was some people that were children that were pulled in from across the world that were kept at the airbase at Rendlesham. And it is said, now this is only conspiracy theory, that these children were made to project this spacecraft and the landing and all the rest of it. It never really happened. It was the children that were projecting this into the minds of people that were somewhere where they shouldn't be, basically.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
Yeah.
Then again, it's got to be said, and I don't know if I've ever told you about this one at all. My best ever UFO sighting was in my garden when I was sitting, slightly drunk, with Larry Warren and Nick Redfern, of all people.
Really?
And my wife at the time, who's now dead, I'm afraid. But
Yeah.
Larry Warren was here. Larry Warren was sat next to me. We saw this fucking great triangle thing flying unfeasibly low over the garden. And I am damn certain the only reason we saw it was because he was there.
Really?
And
do you think he subconsciously he's projecting that, or they're just following him?
No, I think that when he was a very little boy, somebody in the American government said, right, we're going to fuck with this guy's head for the rest of his life as an experiment. And probably up at the top of the lane, round the corner from where I live, there was probably a white van with a satellite dish stuck on top of it, and somehow they were projecting a what do they call, a hologram or something. And I saw it, and my wife saw it because we were actually sitting next to him. And the funny thing is, Nick Redfern was so drunk he didn't see it.
Well,
Nick Redfern
I've
was
seen 2 UFOs.
slaughtered.
Yeah, I've seen 2 UFOs in my time. Completely different. Completely different. But I have seen the triangle one. And the lights that were connecting it, if it was one object, which I feel it was, because they moved in sync that precisely and never deviated in distance between them. That if this triangle that these lights formed was one object, it must have been the size of a couple of football pitches. It was massive. And it was low, no noise, and it followed the M1 motorway north. Yeah, followed the M1 motorway north. And I asked around, I asked loads and loads of people, did you see the lights last night? Nobody seemed to see anything, that just fascinated me. And it was my partner at the time, and she's not sensitive at all. She'd seen one blue light. She saw one blue light, but it were at back of the houses across from me. So I walked up street a little bit to get a better look at it. And then the other 2 lights came into view with it, type of thing. And we all watched it. There were more than, obviously, just like you, Jonathan, we were having a drink in garden summer night. And it just went silently, very slow as well, and followed motorway, that were unreal. The first ever sighting was just like it was just like a star in the sky, and that's all I could see. I was taking dog for a walk on this path, so there was no light pollution because it was a little country path. And I'd seen it in distance, and for some reason I'd focused on it because when I first saw it, it was just the same size and shape as all other stars in sky. But for some reason I focused on that particular one. And as I'm walking, it started getting closer. The oddity about it is it never changed size. And again, there was no noise, no nothing. And I've been watching it on and off, obviously concentrating on dog. And as I've got further on this path, there was another fella with 2 dogs coming towards me. And he kept turning back and looking at exactly the same thing. The other oddity about it is, as we met each other, we finished each other's sentence. Have you? Yeah, I have. Have you? And we're both looking at this star, basically, that's got closer and closer. And as it's getting closer, it's getting faster. It's not fast. It's similar speed to a jet or an helicopter, but there's no noise again, nothing. And it's not changed inside the size. There's no beam or anything. The other weirdest thing about it is normally my dog's fussy, but she sat at the side of me and the other two dogs sat at the side of my dog and they were all looking up at the sky, which that's unheard of for dogs. They're always nose up each other or on floor. You know, they don't look up into the sky, do they? So everybody, we're all looking up into the sky, and then all of a sudden this light, it went in such an odd movement, darting about the sky, like really fast, and then just shot off and disappeared.
Yeah.
I says to the fella, I says, listen, mate, I says, nobody's going to believe that. So we exchanged, you know, where we lived. I says, and see what comes of that. But that's the UFO side. But I'm also, this is what I'm saying, I've investigated all sorts of things. I like cryptids because I've experienced that as well. I was doing a walk leader for Sure Start, which is a children's thing. I don't think it still exists, but I used to do walk leading for them. So I used to have to do a walk twice, basically, because you've got to risk assess it. Because if you're taking kids and people around on a walk, you've got to have insurance and all that, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we'd gone to do a reservoir called Thursko Reservoir in North Yorkshire. And we're walking on this path, and all I could see was sheep's pelts. And I'm thinking, why is there all these sheepskins? They were all over the place. No sign of bones, no sign of anything. Just these sheep's pelts, mainly tails. Now, I do know the practice has been stopped now, but they used to snip them, didn't they? Put an elastic band on them so that they fell off. A bit like when they're neutering bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm thinking no more on it, and it started to middle a little bit. I says, right, there's a building up here. I says, we'll all stop and have something to eat. We'll take some shelter in this little shack, this building. Now, this building was derelict. There were only half a roof left. So as we goes in, we're all huddling in one corner under this bit of roof that's left. And I noticed in other side, there was a tethering, a pole attached to the wall with a ring on it with a little bit of a chain. And on the floor, all I can describe it is a massive nest made out of these pelts. And I couldn't think for life of me what it could be. And then all of a sudden, I formulated this idea. Maybe somebody had a big cat, because it was at the time when they were saying you need a license for these dangerous animals. And if you don't get a license, you're going to be prosecuted. So I come up with the idea that maybe somebody had a big cat and thought, rather than having to get rid of it, they'd taken it around this reservoir and tied it up. And they'd had it tethered on a night, and then they just let it go on during the day. And maybe, well, this big cat that had been killing all sheep. But for me, there were far too many pelts for one animal. So maybe they had more than one in that building. But I approached a paper at the time, a local paper to me, and they didn't want to know because it weren't in my area. It were in North Yorkshire. So I'd have had that one published as well. But yeah, I've seen some things, definitely. But if that sort of thing happens where people take big cats and one thing or another and they end up in wild, these are where a lot of these cryptid sightings come from, in my belief. But who's to say that there isn't other animals out there in the crossbreeding and one thing or another, you know, because nature will find a way, won't it? So If you've got a puma and then a leopard or something, and they mate, because they are feasible, they can mate, what you're going to get from that? It's going to be an odd sighting, isn't it? So it becomes a cryptid. The one thing I have noticed with a lot of these things, though, is they only last for a certain length of time, which again, it lends credence to it's a crossbreed, and once it's lived its life, nobody sees it again, unless it's a feasible population of animals. So, but we'll find out eventually, won't we? I mean, there is supposed to be cryptids on Cannock, isn't there? So, is it true? Are they there or aren't they? You know, you'd know better than me for that.
Broadly, I think there's two different types of these mysteries. As far as mystery animals are concerned, some of them are real animals, real flesh and blood animals that have either come into an area because of human interference or naturally. But the other half of them are all part of the sort of weird shit that it's the same thing as the ghosts, the UFOs. In the same way as I don't believe that all of what we call to be ghosts are the spirits of the dead, I don't think that most of what we call UFOs are anything to do with either secret government projects or aliens from the planet Zog. I think it's all part of the same high strangeness that people like us three, and I suspect a lot of the people watching tonight, have lived our lives partially trying to come to terms with and partially trying to investigate. And I think it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
Robert, I just want to say something to you, my darling. I have been published in one of the CFZ's periodicals. What do you call it?
It's the Journal of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, available
Yes.
from all good bookstores and most shitty ones.
So check that out, because I have come to a conclusion about somebody who saw a creature that had a pig's head at Cannock Chase Castle Ring. I went and investigated it, and before we even got out the car, we'd already drawn our conclusions. It was so obvious. But if you want to hear more about that, you need to read about it in the CFZ's journal that you can get. You can go on the website and have a look.
Or give Liz Pitt and she'll tell you all about it.
Yes. So not all of it is high strangeness. Not all of it is ghosts, UFOs. Some of it, when you step back and look at it logically and use common sense, you know exactly what it is without even having to do anything. So, yeah, that is, I'll leave that there because I don't want to say too much, but it's not what people think it is. It's something even worse.
Usually these things aren't what people think. The latest one, the one that came out in the January? No, March.
February,
the one that
wasn't
came
it?
out in March.
March.
I've noticed, and for years I used to paraphrase the right on, Robert. I used to paraphrase the X-Files by saying the truth is out there, but it's usually not what anybody either expects it to be or wants it to be. It turns out to be something completely and utterly different most of the time.
Yeah.
By the way, if you hear funny noises, Archie's playing with Dottie on the floor, and they're being quite noisy.
They're not. They're being good.
Yeah.
Archie doesn't know how to be good. He's a bit like you, Vivian.
No, I'm just normal as everybody else out there. So I want to talk about just quickly, Bri, I hope you don't mind. Next week on Wednesday night, there is going to be a slight change to the schedules. You know, we've been having the CF, we call it our cryptid corner, but we're now going to take it to a whole another level.
We can
Jonathan,
show
do you
you
want
the
to explain?
video if you want.
Well, you tell them first what we're doing.
Well,
You
shall
explain to
we put
people.
the video on? It explains it.
Shall we?
Yeah, it's in 1 minute and 38 seconds. If I can work
Okay,
out how
hang
to
on
get back
one
on
sec. I think I can get it from here. Hang on. Oops.
Clever girl.
Oops. I'm pressing buttons and I don't know what I'm pressing.
Hey,
Guys,
All my
have a
life,
look at this and tell us what you think. This is what we have planned next week.
For the last 33 years, the Centre for Fortean Zoology has been the English-speaking world's foremost mystery animal research group. We have sent expeditions all over the world, and we have published books, magazines and journals which, being of no real commercial significance, would never have been published by anybody else, because we're not in it for the money. Now, a few months ago, Dave Scott of CFZ Canada suggested that we should have a monthly forum online, a bit like the BBC's Question Time. This would be where a regular panel of CFZ representatives and special guests would debate the cryptozoological news of the moment and take questions from the audience. So we approached our friends at the Simply Spooky Network, who knew far more about live streaming than we do. And much to our great joy, they said yes. And now you can watch it once a month on the last Wednesday of the month show. For the
So I was going to play that again then.
yeah, be good. Be good. I'll interact in any way you like. Yeah, it's good, that.
It'd be nice to have you on one time. Next week we've got Harlem.
Harlem Karma. Oh,
Harlem Karma.
What a breath of fresh air he is. He's a really nice guy.
I'm very, very fond of him. And we've got Dave Scott from CSZ Canada, and we have Ian Squibbs, who's a Loch Ness Monster expert.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting show next week.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got me and Jonathan coordinating it all. It's going to be manic. I'm going to behave myself, especially for the first one.
No, she's not. She doesn't know how to behave herself.
I agree.
What I do.
I can do when I have to.
By the way, you asked who V. McQuillan was. He's the man who gave me my hat.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he gave me my hat as a Christmas present, Christmas before last.
I like that hat. That's quite cool.
Yeah. I also wear it because I'm getting bald, and I'm not vain.
Me too.
So I like to, when I'm filming, I like to protect the top of my head from things, especially cats, jumping on it.
What you need is a nice smoking jacket to go with the hat.
I think so. Except I don't smoke anymore.
No, but you don't need to smoke. It's just a fashion accessory.
Yeah, I think I should have a velvet smoking jacket with beading.
Yes, I do. I think so too. Side round, it upsets me that Americans don't refer to the letter Z as Z. I mean, it's been Z for centuries. Why do Americans have to be odd ducks? Where the hell did Z come from? Americans are as stupid as hell. Okay, I'm done. No, they're not stupid. They just don't understand English language.
No,
That doesn't mean to say
Catherine,
we do
you're
either.
right. They're stupid as hell. It's all their fault.
You can't say that.
I can. I just did.
You shouldn't.
They
But
look
V's
who
got,
they elected. They voted for fucking Donald Trump. They must be stupid as hell.
well, some people here voted for Keir Starmer.
I didn't.
No, neither did I.
Hey, V, you'd be jealous of me and Jonathan, because we have Hennis and Crowface.
Yes, we have a female alter ego who turns up on Vivian's part of the show with a crow's head.
Ooh.
By the way,
Crowface
V, you've got to find your bloody webcam, and then we'll have you on the show. It's that he's lost his bloody webcam and can't find it.
Catherine,
You don't need it. You don't need it. Just use your phone like I do. I'm all on my phone. You only need a phone.
Jonathan, can you explain what a smoking jacket is to Catherine?
It's what the Victorian gentlemen used to wear in order that the rest of their clothes didn't smell of tobacco when they'd been indulging in the disgusting vice of having cigars in the evening. And that's the reason that both the Nepalese originally started these hats, but the Victorian gentlemen took them over and called them smoking caps because it would stop their hair smelling of tobacco after they had been puffing away on a cigar.
There you go. Nico's got a deputy dog.
Oh.
I remember I did a podcast once, and I had "Hey you guys" mask on. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Off Goonies. Hey you guys.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I've got Crowface down here. That's Crowface.
Right then.
And Crowface is charming.
Crowface is made of rubber. And it's very hot when you wear it.
Oh, the mystery, young lady.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Right. We've been going for an hour and a half. And
we have. You're kidding.
No, we have.
Fucking hell, you're right. I wasn't expecting that to happen.
Doesn't time fly when you're having fun?
Yes. So you'll be up to coming on one of the. You'll be up to coming on one of the cryptid. What was it called? The weird. No, the last Wednesday show. Whatever show it is.
Wednesday of the month show, but only because that's the only thing I could think of this afternoon. But Bri, we'd love to have you on one time if you'd like to come on.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask you actually. I never got a chance. One of the little bits of research I did is one of the latest animals. It's a tapir type creature. Apparently, it's the largest land mammal, and it's been sighted after 90 years absence. Don't know if that's true, but it's something that I read. I thought maybe you could enlighten me.
Well, yes, it is in one of the I'm not sure what they're called, counties or provinces or what, of Brazil. And I can't I can't tell you. Oh, damn! I've just done something stupid. I can't tell you which one because I can't remember. But the last one of the last time a Brazilian tapir was seen there was 90 years ago, in 1935, and it's been seen for the first time in 90 years, which does prove that, given half a chance, Mother Nature always repairs herself.
Yeah, exactly.
Mother
Exactly.
Talking of
Nature
that,
is incredibly resilient.
I want to just quickly, before we leave tonight,
We're leaving?
Jonathan, well, we will at some point. I want you
Yeah.
to talk about these beasties here.
Hmm.
Oh, the
Bone
bone
skippers.
skippers.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is, I told you all about 3 weeks ago. I can't remember how the hell the subject of bone skipper flies came up.
From your
Uh,
maggots.
Oh yeah, it was when I was having treatment for having maggots put on my foot. I've got a big wound in my foot. For those of you who didn't know, that I've been having treated with medical maggots, and we were talking about bone skipper flies, which were also known as corpse flies because they were found quite often on battlefields where the mutilated bodies of soldiers that had been hit by cannonballs and things were found, and they laid their eggs particularly not just on rotting flesh, but on the what's it called, the marrow in the middle of broken bones. And they were called bone skippers because apparently the maggots used to jump, and it looked like they were skipping from one part of the bone to the other part of the
Yeah.
bone. But it was thought that they had become extinct over 100 years ago. And it was actually described in all the technical literature. It said that it was the first member of the family Diptera, that's the two-winged flies, to have come extinct through human action. And in this case, the human action being that we, even though when we still have battles, we clear up our bodies afterwards. We don't leave mangled bodies in the middle of battlefields anymore. And it was thought that they'd been extinct for over 100 years plus. And recently, a species was rediscovered in Spain, I believe. And
Yeah,
then,
2009.
yep, and then a few years later, my mate Lars Thomas, who we've got to have him on the show sometime, he's brilliant, is a Danish zoologist who works with the University of Copenhagen. He's a lovely, lovely guy. I've known him for years. He rediscovered them in Denmark. And now I discovered the other day there are not just one new species, one species being rediscovered, but three. There's actually now
Wow.
3 species of bone skipper fly that nobody knew about, still buzzing around Europe, which proves that they don't just live on fresh battlefields. But
Yeah.
Do they look a bit like wasps? Are they sort of that? Are they tiny like a fly? Because as
They're
I'm looking at
related. They're
pictures,
related to signal flies.
yeah,
So
they are, and they are blue bottle size.
they're quite hairy, aren't they?
only in
Yeah,
certain
I
areas.
just find the whole. I think of the whole idea, the fact that there's 3 whole species of these things being rediscovered is fantastic. But they've been rediscovered in places that there haven't been any battles. And there've been no land battles in Western Europe for over 80 years. The last land battles. anal dwelling butt monkeys. Oh, Catherine, you've got to. Don't hold back. Tell us what you really think. Unfortunately, my love, there are annoying shits everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they are. For the lot.
Behave yourself.
Robert, that's not a gentlemanly way to behave. I'm ashamed of.
But it was just like I was so excited when you sent me these pictures. It's like, oh, I've got the bone skipper flies.
I just think part of me wants to know, because there are now European land battles going on in the Ukraine and in parts of Russia, and I wonder if these things, it's a particularly gruesome, fairly unwholesome thought to have, but I wonder if these flies are making a comeback there where there actually are land battles. But I want to know, in parts of Europe where there haven't been land battles for 80 years, what are they doing now? Where do they live? If they like to eat bone marrow, where are they getting it?
Probably cemeteries.
Yeah.
And I thought my thought about the Ukraine battles were unwholesome. Bri, you are more unwholesome than me, and that's saying something.
It's just
But
common sense to me, Jonathan,
I'm just wondering if they've not dug the graves properly, Bri, which is why
Yeah,
they've been
yeah,
on
exactly.
shallow graves rather than being actually 6 foot under.
Yeah, there's always been unholy burials, let's face it. So maybe if it only needs one carcass, and you've got a colony, haven't you?
Have you heard of something? Oh God, what's the bloody thing they called? There is an animal which has been reported in Banffshire in Scotland, which supposedly lives in. It supposedly lives underground and has been found in freshly dug graves. And the legend is that it lives off buried corpses.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I can't remember what the damn thing is called.
Well, you've got your sexton beetles, which have been found in
Oh,
those
yeah,
cemeteries.
yeah. No, this is the thing that's supposed to be the size. It's supposed to look a bit like a dog. Earthhounds, that's it. Earthhounds. And I believe that up until just before the First World War, there was a subspecies of polecat found in Scotland. It's now extinct. And it was semi-fossorial. It lived a lot of its time underground.
Yeah.
And I think if you have one species of mustelid evolved to live underground in Scotland, you could have another one.
Yeah.
And I don't think they evolved to live off freshly dug corpses. Evolution, we've only been around a few thousand years, maybe 10, 15,000 years. That's not long enough for an animal to have evolved to live specifically in freshly dug graves. But can you imagine you've got an animal that's evolved to live off moles? Because moles have evolved to live underground for hundreds of thousands of millions of years. And I think it's quite possible that there's a creature that's evolved to live underground in Scotland to hunt moles. And that the only time that anybody ever sees it is when a sexton has dug a freshly dug grave and they happen to see one that's just come out of its burrow by accident into the grave. But I'll just give you that one because I think that's a nice gruesome story for Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's a pine marten.
I'm just sharing this picture because I think it's cute.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
They're
a
not
pine
very
marten.
cute.
Yeah. I
They
wrote
yeah,
are. Look at that little face.
They're gorgeous.
You've got to look at as well. What you've got to look at as well is adaptability. And there's the one the most adaptable of the muskids is obviously mink, and that's been found all over due to man's interference. I don't deny, but they adapt quite well to living off different sources. So maybe it's possible that it's a mink type creature that's you know.
Quite possibly, they're very adaptable. They're very adaptable. Hang on, why are you showing us a lesser horseshoe bat?
I don't know. It just happened to
You're
be on there.
confusing me.
Forget the
Vivian.
bats. I'm trying to find the minks and the house martins. Not house
No, a
martins.
house martin's a bird.
Pine martin, I
like
mean.
sparrow.
And the stoat. Similar creatures.
Yeah, weasels, they're all the same, but mink's
Look
the
at
most
that cute
adaptable
thing.
for
Minks
every
are very
environment. Yeah, for every environment that it's been introduced into, the mink is the one that thrives. The one that you're showing us, the pine marten, is the least adaptable. It seems to only prefer certain. It's fussy. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
It's fussy. It likes
it
pine forests, and that's it.
and it mostly it always has historically it's evolved to eat red squirrels, and as red squirrels have become rarer and rarer and rarer and rarer, pine martin's range contracted.
Yeah.
But for years, there have been the occasional reports of them outside the areas they're supposed to live. And I wrote a
Yep.
book, oh, golly, nearly 30 years ago now, called The Small and Mystery Carnivores of the West Country, in which I suggested that pine martens didn't actually become extinct in Devon, Cornwall, Somerset, and Dorset the way that they're supposed to have done. And everybody, I got just laughed at by the people from the Mammal Society and the woman from the British Museum. And all these people told me I was just a fantasist and talking nonsense. But in the last 10 years, guess what's happened, guys? They have turned up in Cornwall,
Exactly.
Dorset,
Yeah. It's them in
Hampshire,
Yorkshire.
all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few in Yorkshire now.
Yeah.
And
We've got
they've
quite a
turned
lot
up
of
in all
things
the
in there.
places they're not supposed to be.
Yes. I mean, they travel. Simple as that, don't they? They travel. They'll use any means to travel as well. And we don't always see it, especially these days.
Must
Oh,
be.
that was that picture. Boop the snoot. Boop, boop.
But yeah,
It was cute.
I would suggest that it's something related to a mink, or if it's not mink in themselves, because they're adaptable,
Yeah.
very adaptable, and if they've found a source of food, they will follow it more than any of the other muskids, I would say.
I'll be your Mr. Jingles, Catherine.
She'll boop your snoot. Boop, boop.
I bet you would.
But yeah, this is what I'm saying. I like anything to do with wildlife, but I was taught, the way that I was taught is everything from the ground up. So if you want to find something, find its food source, and you've
Right.
got much more of a chance of finding it. So
You and I
like
are singing from the same hymn sheet.
yes, I used to watch dormice, on which they said they don't exist in South Yorkshire, but they do. I've sat and watched them in a hazel grove. So And you can find by the way that an animal eats, for example, the mice eat a hazelnut, totally different to a dormouse, totally different to a squirrel. They all eat them in different ways. And if you know that, then you know what you've got. Even if you haven't seen the animal, you know that they exist, they're there. So, and I've sat with my parker that I used to hang my parker up outside in shed so that it didn't get contaminated with human smell as such. And I only ever wore that parker to go wildlife watching, so that they didn't see me. I used to sit in bottom of these hazel groves, just off at ground, and sit there for hours waiting for them to come out. I've seen some things. I've been lucky to see some things and some phenomena. But that's another story. Weather-wise as well, I've seen some right phenomena weather-wise. What's that? Oh, Dave, what's that?
That is the Centre for Fortean Zoology.
Yeah.
If anybody's interested, have a little look on there, have a little nose around, shop for merch, buy a few books.
And if you do nothing else, next Saturday afternoon, we have the next episode of our increasingly eccentric web TV show on YouTube at 3:00, and our guest next Saturday is. Hang on, I'm trying to remember who
You're as bad as me, Jonathan. You're as bad as me.
I'm afraid I am. Speak amongst yourselves, ladies and gentlemen.
We will.
I thought, no, go away. I don't want that.
Freaky Friday here on this network. Fridays, 8:00. Bri and Ian are back together, and you are discussing. Do you know what you're discussing this week?
I haven't got a clue. We never do. Give us a subject, Viv, and we'll talk about it.
Talk about Mitchell Priory.
Where?
Mitchell Priory, where Ian was on Friday last week.
Oh, yeah. We'll get him to talk for a change. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Do you have your egg collection, Bri?
What?
An egg collection.
I used to.
It's illegal these days.
Yeah, I used to years ago. But obviously, I've moved quite a few times, so that got lost along the way.
And I can now tell you who our special guest is. I was going to tell you something completely wrong.
You kept us in suspenders then.
Stop it, Vivian.
Sorry, carry on.
You're not supposed to, I'm an old man. You mustn't inflame my thoughts.
I'm talking about sock suspenders. I don't know what you're thinking about. Anyway, carry on.
No, you've got me thinking now as well.
Yes.
The Marlies.
You must remember, him and I are gentlemen of a certain age.
You know about socks. Socks, gentlemen's socks that you put on your feet with suspenders on them.
No, they're not the same, Viv. No, they're not.
That's what I was talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but there was a garter that went just above the knee and down the side of the leg. They weren't very high suspended like women's. So
Americans call bracelet suspenders.
I forgot the name on it.
They're American, isn't it? They're colonials. They can't use the King's English.
Right, who have you got on this Saturday?
I was on a show the other day with an American presenter who dared to say that I was talking in British English. And I said, no, dear boy, there's no such fucking thing as British English. There was the King's English and there's the degraded patois that you colonials speak.
Yeah.
Our show, we've got your friend Richard Freeman on this weekend.
Oh, Richard,
Saturday
yes.
afternoon, you got me and Richard going through our favourite Fortean and cryptozoological books and why. which is quite a good one.
Ooh.
It's something we did for fun, and it just carried on and carried on. It was great fun. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's on 3 o'clock on the CSN TV YouTube channel on Saturday. And no, dear boy, the King's English. I won't hear any of your weird Celtic nationalism going on here, McCrinnan. I've completely lost what I was doing now. And next Wednesday, we have the last Wednesday of the month show here, taking over the Simply Spooky show for one evening and seeing what happens.
Carnage. But it'd be
I'll
good.
come and join in chat. I'll come and join. I'll chuck some questions at you.
You bloody well better do, Bry. I'll hold you to that.
Good.
Tell everyone about it.
I've made no Yorkshire jokes all evening.
No, you ain't. You've been good.
No.
What's your favourite tea bag, Bry?
The mill. I'm sorry, dear.
My favourite tea bag. I don't drink tea, but my favourite tea bag actually is same as my mother's, Yorkshire tea, made by Taylor.
Lad.
Made by Taylors of Harrogate. It's the same one that what do they call him now from Sheffield? Pete. Is it Pete? Well-known actor. Played Sharp.
Oh, Sean Bean.
That's him, Sean. Where did I get Pete
How
from?
did you get Pete from Sean?
I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, Sean Bean. He does Yorkshire tea advert, doesn't he? So, but it's made in Harrogate, and it's Taylor's, and they make quite a lot of brands. To be fair, I think they bought Ringtons out as well a few years ago. So, but yeah, it's a good strong tea.
It comes from India.
I haven't been to Harrogate in 30 years.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Quite a few cryptids seen around that area, i.e. Knaresborough. And there's a famous person from Knaresborough. You probably remember her, Mother Shipton.
There's Knaresborough not far from me.
Mother Shipton's cave.
Yes, yeah. Very commercial now, but...
Oh, yeah, I find it really quite distasteful.
Yes, yeah, me too. But she was a good... she provided...
I've never been there.
You haven't? It's a nice place to visit, is Harrogate. As I said, there's a few areas around it. Do you remember a series back in the day called Follyfoot Farm?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
she's too young. She's just a wee lass.
Yeah, well, that's very close to Knaresborough, Follyfoot. It actually exists. And there's another place that you must visit if you're in that area. It's in Wetherby, which is exactly next door to Harrogate. It's all part of Harrogate. And that's... I was going to tell you it then. It actually looks more like an abbey. But it was a 45 manor house, Spofford Castle. It's just a little village green now with what looks like an abbey, remains of an abbey, but that is well active. And it
sounds like a Londoner then. That's well active. That is well active. That's London speak. That is.
Yeah. Willard.
Willard.
Am I dreaming it, or isn't there an army camp at Wetherby?
Used to be, yes. Yeah.
I'm sure my brother was stationed there once. But...
Yeah, in fact, it's Harrogate. It's classed as Harrogate, but I think it was next to the zoo. There's a zoo there as well at Knaresborough. So it's all all same area.
Guys, we've got 4 minutes left, and we've done 2 hours.
Woohoo!
And we haven't even started talking about the Yorkshire sea serpents yet.
We'll have to get him on the cryptid show for that.
Yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
have to get him and Richard on at the same time because Richard knows all about the Yorkshire Sea Serpents.
Yes. The cryptid scene in England at the moment is taking off again. There's been more sightings at Bempton Cliff, and on the other coast, you've got Chase, Cannock Chase. So we've got quite a lot going off at minute, I think, anyway. And
At
they
the
all
risk
seem
of,
to be
at the risk of
canine.
pissing Viv off, what's happening at Bempton Cliff?
Why do you know, Viv?
Dogman.
Yes.
Is that a Dogman place?
See, I know
Yeah.
about these things.
I
Yeah.
don't. Like I told you, I'm
Yeah.
just a tedious old hippie. I don't know any of this crap.
But there's a guy that's been studying for quite some time in that area. He got a little bit obsessed and he had to step back for a little bit, but I think he's back on it. So I did take a drive there myself last summer, and I did sense there is an atmosphere about it, but I never saw anything. But the signs, like you get rabbit tracks and badger tracks and fox tracks, that they're using these routes regular. There were signs of that, but you knew that it wasn't anything that you'd seen before. So it's interesting. It really is interesting. So I'll be keeping an eye on that, because I do visit some churches around that area as well. And it's always good to visit churches that's frequented and part of a village. Because believe it or not, you can hear a lot of stories when you visit these places by talking to locals. Just mention something in the shell, and then they're more likely to start telling you stories. They're
Listen,
more
guys, we've got
trusting.
2 minutes left.
Yep.
We've got to wrap this up. So,
So you want us to wrap it up?
yes.
Yo, we're in the house. I'm just about to wrap it up.
That's it. What about
Her
you,
name
Brian?
is
Can you do a
Viv,
wrap?
which is really, yes.
Div. She's number one, Div. And she's a bit of a
Yeah, man.
spiv.
Peace out.
We'll be back next week, guys. The first in the end of the month Wednesday show is going to be great. We are going to get Bri back because this conversation needs to continue.
Oh, shit, yeah, we need to have Bri back because this is great fun. I could probably carry on another hour and a half, but...
We hope you can join us next week. We'll kick it off at 8:00 again next week. If you can't, we want to say thank you for joining us in the chat as well. We do appreciate questions, your comments, and everything else that came with it. We really have enjoyed you guys, and we hope that you've enjoyed us as much as we've enjoyed you. That sounds awful, doesn't it? But you know what I mean.
It sounds incredibly inappropriate, Vivian.
Well, anyway, moving along swiftly. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.